There is a moment that changes everything. A moment that most people spend years, sometimes decades, working toward. The moment your bank account, your investment account, or your combined net worth crosses $100,000 for the very first time. It is a milestone that feels monumental, and it should, because statistically, it is one of the hardest financial thresholds a person will ever cross. The journey from zero to $100,000 demands discipline, sacrifice, delayed gratification, and a level of financial focus that most people simply never develop. And yet, here is the brutal, uncomfortable truth that nobody talks about loudly enough. For the majority of people who reach that milestone, the moment they arrive is also the moment they begin making the single most expensive mistake of their financial lives. Not because they are careless, not because they are unintelligent, but because reaching $100,000 triggers a deeply human psychological response that, without awareness, quietly destroys the very momentum that got them there. Let us talk about what actually happens inside a person's mind when they hit that number. After years of watching every dollar, skipping vacations, driving an older car, eating at home instead of restaurants, and saying no to things that friends and colleagues said yes to without hesitation, the brain receives a signal. The signal says, you have done it, you have arrived, you have proven something. And that signal, as natural and as understandable as it is, carries with it a dangerous companion emotion: relief. And relief, in the context of wealth building, is one of the most financially destructive feelings a human being can experience, because relief tells the brain that the hard part is over. Relief says you can relax now. Relief whispers that you have earned the right to enjoy what you have built. And the moment you begin to relax your financial discipline because you have reached a milestone, you have started walking backward without realizing it. The first and most common mistake people make after crossing $100,000 is what financial psychologists call lifestyle inflation. And it happens so gradually, so naturally, that most people never even see it coming. You've been driving the same car for 6 years. Now you have $100,000, and you think, reasonably, that you deserve something better. So you upgrade. You go from no car payment to a $500 monthly payment. Then, because you now feel financially successful, you upgrade your apartment or your home. Your housing cost goes up by $800 a month. You start eating at nicer restaurants because you have worked hard and you deserve it. You take the vacation you have been postponing. You upgrade your wardrobe. You start saying yes to things you said no to for years. And individually, every single one of these decisions feels completely justified. You earned the money. Why should you not? Enjoy it. But here is what happens mathematically when you do all of these things simultaneously. Your monthly expenses increase by $2,000, $3,000, sometimes $4,000. Your savings rate, which was the engine that built the $100,000 in the first place, collapses. And instead of your money continuing to compound and grow at the rate that would turn $100,000 into $500,000, it stagnates. It plateaus. Sometimes it begins to shrink. The second massive mistake, and this one is arguably even more dangerous than lifestyle inflation, is what I call premature sophistication. When people reach $100,000, they suddenly feel like serious investors. They feel like they have graduated from the basics and are now ready for the advanced strategies. They start listening to friends at dinner parties who talk about a hot stock tip. They read about cryptocurrency and put a significant portion of their savings into assets they do not fully understand because the potential upside sounds extraordinary. They hear about real estate deals that promise 15% returns, and they invest without doing the proper due diligence. They get pitched on private investment opportunities by people who seem successful and credible, and because they now have real money, they feel the urgency to make that money work harder and faster. The problem is that premature sophistication is almost always driven by impatience, not by genuine knowledge or strategy. The boring, consistent, mathematically proven path, low-cost index funds, consistent contributions, time in the market, compound interest working quietly over decades, suddenly feels too slow,
too ordinary, not worthy of someone who has already built $100,000. And so they abandoned the strategy that worked in favor of a more exciting strategy that statistically, for most people, produces significantly worse results. The third mistake is one that almost nobody talks about, and it is the failure to understand what $100,000 actually is in the context of a complete wealth-building journey. $100,000 is not the destination. It is not even close to the destination. It is the beginning of the part of the journey where compound interest starts to become genuinely powerful. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, famously said that the first $100,000 is the hardest to save, and that once you have it, you should do whatever it takes to keep it working. What he understood, and what most people who celebrate hitting the milestone fail to internalize, is that $100,000 left to compound at 10% annually, which is approximately the historical average return of the stock market over long periods, becomes $1 million in approximately 24 years without adding a single additional dollar. But that only works if you do not touch it. It only works if you do not drain it with lifestyle inflation. It only works if you do not lose a significant portion of it to premature, sophisticated investments that go wrong. The mathematics of compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the universe of personal finance, but it requires one thing above all others: time and patience, and the discipline not to interrupt it. The fourth mistake, and this one is deeply emotional, is the mistake of comparison. When you have $100,000, you suddenly become aware of people who have more. Before, when you had $10,000, the gap between you and the truly wealthy felt so vast that comparison felt almost irrelevant. But at $100,000, you start to notice your colleague who just bought a $700,000 house. You see your friend from university posting photos of a business class flight to Europe. You become aware of people your age who seem to be living at a level significantly above where you are, and something inside you says that you should be there too, that your $100,000, which took years to build, and which represents genuine discipline and sacrifice, is somehow not enough. And so, driven by comparison, people begin making financial decisions not based on their own carefully considered plan, but based on trying to match or exceed the visible lifestyle of people around them. This is a race that can never be won, and that always costs more than the participant can afford. So, what is the solution? How do you protect the momentum that built your first $100,000 and convert it into the kind of wealth that genuinely changes your life trajectory? The answer is almost insultingly simple, but it requires a level of psychological strength that most people underestimate. You must treat $100,000 not as an arrival, but as an ignition. You must consciously resist the relief response. You must acknowledge the milestone with genuine pride and then immediately recommit to the habits and the discipline that produced it. You must increase your investment contributions as your income grows, not your lifestyle expenditures. You must educate yourself deeply before making any investment decision that deviates from the proven fundamentals. And you must ruthlessly protect your compound interest engine from the twin threats of lifestyle inflation and speculative impatience. The people who turn $100,000 into $1 million are not necessarily smarter than the people who plateau at $100,000. They are simply the people who understood that the milestone was a beginning and who had the discipline to treat it as one.